Welcome to part 2 of my Vietnamese rainforest paludarium. As I did in part 1, I'm focusing on the flora and fauna in the highlands of central Vietnam. This time, however, I dip below the surface into a small underwater ecosystem to explore the unique animals and plants found there. In a land of porous limestone rock and high average rainfall, an abundance of streams, pools, and flooded caverns have been carved out over millennia. Hundreds of fish species, including the famous betta, call these rainforest waters home. Hi, this is Minia Nature. I like plants, rocks, water, and all creatures in between. I begin the build by adding nutrient-rich aqua soil, as it's a good choice for a planted aquarium. I'm adding Tropica soil powder, in the hopes the finer texture provides a good base for delicate roots to establish themselves. The first aquatic plant to go in is Rotala rotundifolia Ha. The plant's distribution is what initially dictated the area of Vietnam I wanted to focus on. The plant is named after an ethnic group residing in Gia Lai province in central Vietnam. The Ha are known for their steppe terrace rice farming. Rotala, considered a weed by many, makes its home in these flooded rice paddies. I'm hoping for it to grow out above the waterline, as it would in the wild. Next, I'm adding Cryptocoryne crispatula. Many cryptocoryne species are found in different water bodies in central Vietnam. Crispatula is a larger crypt whose long leaves should settle on the water surface. This is Cryptocoryne albida brown. Like most species of Cryptocoryne, albida brown can survive in lower light environments. This makes it perfect to plant underneath the large piece of eucalyptus wood that supports the terraria above, as seen in part 1. Being a medium-sized crypt, I also feel comfortable planting it nearer to the front of the tank. Boger moss, Latin name Taxiphyllum barbieri, is frequently found in riparian zones across most of Southeast Asia. This type of moss, like others, survives above and below the water surface. I'm adding it to small cracks in the wood near the waterline to blend the terrestrial and aquatic zones together. Finally, I'm adding a unique and locally hard to find floating plant named Salvinia cucullata. Generally, all Salvinia species like stagnant waters, strong light, and ample nutrients in the water column. The fine roots filter out unwanted nitrates commonly found in newly started aquariums, helping with the initial cycling of the tank. No aquarium is complete without some inhabitants. This is Trichopsis pumila, or the sparkling gourami. Being the smallest of its species, I think it suits this nano rainforest aquarium perfectly. Gourami's unique trait of breathing surface air through a lung-like organ known as a labyrinth enables them to live in near stagnant water with low oxygen levels. Because of this, they thrive in little pools, irrigation ditches, and even rice paddies. I'll check back in a month and see how everything is doing. As you can probably see, things are less than ideal. The few remaining plants are fighting for nutrients against a number of algae blooms. Though alive and well, this is not the home I imagined for my little gouramis. Ultimately, I've made the decision to start over and redo the aquarium portion of this paludarium. After draining a little water, it's time to gently remove the fish. A razor blade works great for removing algae and calcium buildup from the glass. Please always be careful when handling sharp objects. Don't worry about me though. I'm a professional. Perhaps a blood sacrifice will bring good fortune as I start the aquarium rebuild. I'll switch to using a small piece of sponge to help clean the hard to reach places. Now that I'm more enlightened, I've learnt that this long cryptocoryne crispatula is variety balancée. It natively grows in Thailand and not central Vietnam. However, since similar specimens have been recovered from areas I'm representing in this biotope, I'll keep it in for now. If you have any suggestions for better suited plants to replace it, please let me know in the comments. Because cryptocoryne primarily feed through their roots, it's important to carefully remove them to limit damage. When disturbed like this, they will often wilt from transplant shock and may need a while to recover. Having never been a big fan of aquasoil, I'm removing some. Though its benefits to plant growth cannot be understated, aesthetically, it definitely can be. I'm using this black cardboard barrier so the aquasoil remains behind the sand I'm adding in the foreground. I'm still finding the back of the layout a bit bland, so here I'm trying to break it up with some wood. However, I'm finding it hard to place it in an aesthetic manner that I like. Alternatively, I think capping the black aquasoil with a thin layer of sand might brighten up the dark void. I also prefer the more natural look of sand to the plain black of aquasoil. Once the sand layer's leveled, I can start replanting the cryptocoryne I pulled out earlier. In my opinion, sand tends to hold plants better than aquasoil, especially ones with little to no roots. The trade-off, however, is that fine sand can become anaerobic very quickly, leading to root rot and cyanobacteria blooms. Lastly, I'm adding the Rotala rotundifolia Cha back towards the rear of the tank. I'm still counting on these stems growing up and out of the water because immersed Rotala produces quite beautiful flowers. Additionally, the leaves above water take on a more rounded shape than the thin ones below. This is where the plant gets its Latin name, rotundifolia, or round foliage. If you watched part 1 of this video, thank you. There, you may have noticed I enjoy custom building parts to better fit my project's needs. An issue in this aquarium is the lack of a heater and filtration. Wanting to keep things small, I turned to my 3D printer to create my own tiny internal filter. I start by gluing this plastic inlet pipe from my scrap bin to the main housing of the filter. This USB pump should be strong enough to add some light current to the aquarium. Even some subtle water movement will help with surface agitation needed for oxygen to enter the water. I'm sliding the small pump down into the housing with its impeller opening connected to the inlet tube. The purpose of this oddly shaped piece glued to the side of the filter will become clear later on. Here, I'm attaching some suction cups so I can mount the filter to the glass inside the aquarium. I should have probably made the holes a bit bigger, since this is a real struggle. This little USB aquarium heater only has a 5-watt power output. Since this is a nano tank, I feel like it should be able to manage a steady temperature just fine. The real test will be when winter hits my uninsulated apartment. A small cable cutout for the pump means I can click the lid onto the filter housing. To finish, I'm adding these donut-shaped filter sponges over the inlet tube. They will help eliminate some of the floating debris in the water column. Off camera, I also filled the housing with bioactive media before closing the lid. The oddly shaped piece from earlier is there to hold the inlet hose for the automatic misting system. I want the terrestrial section of the paludarium to get its rain directly from the aquarium below. The nutrient-rich water will be a natural fertilizer for all the plants, and any excess will drain back into the aquarium. Now I can press the suction cups onto the back glass. A bit of a tight squeeze, but it's nice to have it hidden in the back corner. These are magnolia leaves. What exact tree these came from is impossible for me to say. However, several magnolia species are native to Vietnam. Leaf litter like this covers jungle floors, providing little creatures a place to seek refuge. Much the same is true underwater, where fish find shelter in the foliage fallen from the jungle above. These leaves will also release tannins, tinting the water a natural brown color, reminiscent of black water environments found in jungles everywhere. This type of environment should suit the little gouramis much better than my previous fish tank iteration. Once the tank is filled, I can release the sparkling gouramis into their new home. Although being moved is always stressful for fish, they should be settled and comfortable very soon. Now I can power on my homemade filter. Like before, I'll check back in a month and see how everything is doing. Good eye! The aquarium is completely empty again. Shortly after completing the rebuild, it sprung a leak. I've never had this happen in the 25 years I've been in the hobby. I guess another rebuild is in order. This time, however, I'm using only the best aqua soil, adding more lighting, and definitely not offering blood in the hopes of good fortune. I did end up finding a piece of wood to add some more visual interest in the center of the tank. As you can see, I'm using Tropical River Soil by Doa. This, in my opinion, is the bridge between the common, nutrient-rich black aqua soil and the more natural look of sand that I was looking for. Once all the plants are back in, I can turn on the little light bar I added, cycle the tank, and call this build complete. The thick rainforests of central Vietnam are abundant with all kinds of life. Life that, as humans, we can relate to since we walk the same earth. However, aquariums feel like a little window into a world we can't walk. That's why I'm drawn to aquaria. It's a privileged stewardship over animals we can't relate to. Even in the smallest rainforest pools, you find an underwater realm of unknowns. If you enjoyed learning about a small part of the diverse flora and fauna found in Vietnam, please consider liking the video and subscribing to Minia Nature. Today watching for thank you so much.